Hello, welcome. In this video today, we are going to be talking about Saturn and his cycles. We're going to be laying a foundation of understanding the growth that comes with Saturn, understanding his place in our birth chart, and diving into a little bit more. So if that interests you, definitely stick around. This is going to be some pretty beginner-friendly content for those of you who are just dipping your toes into astrology. If you haven't met me yet, hi, I'm Izzy. I go by Astramia here and 8th House Mercury on my TikTok, where a good chunk of you guys find me. Also, I have a newsletter. It's called Letters from the 8th House. It's where I channel the upcoming transits straight to your inbox every Monday. So if you're interested in subscribing to that, you can use the link down below, as well as if you are looking for any readings, they are open and waiting for beautiful people just like you to dive into them. Now, speaking about Saturn, we've got a lot of shifts of Saturn happening depending on when you're seeing this video. This is a sort of timeless educational video. Saturn is finally settling into Aries on February 13th, 2026. And this is a powerful shift and it's the mark of a new era. And I'm very excited for this. And so excited that I'm going to be hosting a masterclass on February 7th to really diving into understanding Saturn in a deeper level. This is a space for those of you who are interested in potentially becoming an astrologer, potentially becoming an astrologer and opening up that doorway for yourself. And then it's also a beautiful way to get to know the people in your life as well. So you can RSVP down below. There's limited spots available. All right. I hope to see you guys there. All right. Let's talk about Saturn. Now, Saturn is kind of... Saturn gets a bad rep, and I understand because Saturn is not the most joyous planet like our friend Jupiter, but Saturn has such a beauty when we actually understand how Saturn is working out in our favor, right? And that's something we're going to be diving into. But in order to understand Saturn, it's beautiful to understand the sort of mythology that comes with it. If you're not familiar, astrology is the study of planets and their effect on our day-to-day lives, and they are the planets. And in Roman mythology, the gods were seen as these planets as well. And so they have their Greek counterpart. And I was a Greek mythology nerd, loved the Percy Jackson series. And so when I started my study of astrology, it was very easy for me to understand the greater stories by looking back at the mythology of Greek mythology. And I was like, oh my gosh, because Saturn is Kronos. And if you don't know who Kronos is, he's the father of Zeus and all the Greek gods. He was a Titan. He was technically the youngest of all of the Titans, and he consumed his children out of fear that they would dethrone him, in which they did, right? We know the story of Zeus actually killing his father and freeing his siblings, right? Now, there's something to this, right? This sort of container. Saturn represents time. Kronos rules over time. And that is the thing that Saturn holds so delicately in the balance for all of us. Because as humans, we perceive time in a linear way. And Saturn really, really shows us those details. It's like the fine, minute aspects of time. And Saturn shows us how we mature, how we grow. When we look at Saturn in the birth chart, and from my perspective as an astrologer, I look at Saturn in a client's chart as their deeper lesson here, as the thing that they are going to grow to master, to mature into, and evolve. And Saturn takes about 30 years to make a full cycle through all the signs. So that's about 2 to 3 years in each sign, give or take. It's not always exactly that amount of time because Saturn retrogrades and goes direct, so it shifts back and forth. But with that being said, it moves us through cycles. And so around the ages of 28 to 30 is when we have our first Saturn return, okay? The infamous Saturn return. That is kind of one of those really, really big pop astrology terms that I really hear a lot. And I feel like there's not a lot of insight around how to navigate it, okay? And we're going to be diving into that in my masterclass. So if you're interested in joining in that. Now, then we have another Saturn return. it happens around 58 to 60, which enters us into a new level of maturity. And it's something that I've become so deeply passionate about because I'm witnessing the cycles in the people around me and just how this evolves. So I'm going to really break it down for you guys. The first 30 years of our life are pivotal. When we're born with our Saturn placement, this is our core structure. This is how we perceive authority, how we witness authority, depending on the birth chart, what sign it's in. If it's retrograde, direct, that has a specific indication to it, which house it's in. These layers we're going to be talking about in my masterclass. But when we really focus on Saturn, he is here to teach us control, to make choices, to have discipline, to understand the long game, to mature, to actually put in hard work and dedication and energy into our growth. Okay. Now, as a kid, that doesn't sound like fun. That sounds like dad. And that is the energy of Saturn. Saturn represents the father. It represents your relationship with your father or authority in your birth chart. So there's always going to be a very significant energy of that first impression of authority within your natal chart. And it usually tends to show up as your father figure or the people outside of you that you deem in control, right? That are the authority of your life. And as a little kid, we're born with our natal chart, right? And then we're raised in our home, and around the age of around 5 to 7, we leave the home for the first time, usually entering in preschool, kindergarten. We're starting to kind of see the world through a different lens. Now that is called our first Saturn square, when we're leaving the home for the first time and we get to see, well, I'm a person, and I used to work in education, so I have seen firsthand what this looks like with littles when they enter kindergarten and they're just parroting everything their parents have said. They believe in this, this is the right way, and you can tell as an adult, these are just things that have been imprinted on them from their parents, right? But then they get to hear other kids, and they get to hear these other perspectives and really absorb this information, right? And kind of feel into, is this something I want to explore? Like, this girl really likes unicorns. I was told I couldn't, but I kind of wanna, right? So we start feeling that tension of like wanting to grow, but not feeling right about it, right? As a little kid, we return home after school and we go right back into those sort of things with our family. Now, my favorite experience, again, context, I used to teach school. I still actually teach high schoolers, interestingly enough. Around the ages of 14, 15, 16, give or take, again, Saturn moves pretty organically. It's a planet. And that is when you have your first Saturn opposition. So that means your natal Saturn, where it's placed, is a 180-degree opposition to the transiting Saturn. This creates tension. Okay, this creates the fuck authority, I'm gonna do what I want. This creates rebellion. This is breaking free of the system that we were raised in. Those angry teen phases, that's just a part of growing up. To rebel against the structures that you know, to rebel against these ideals, and to really kind of break away in a sort of sense. It looks different for everybody. I remember my Saturn opposition. It made sense. Maybe I'll share that story another time, but feel free to comment yours below if you want to. Then we have our third Saturn square, which happens around the age of 20 to 22, which is essentially when, if you followed the traditional route, which would have been going to college, going that sort of pathway, you would technically be graduating college and entering the job force. Now, you don't have to be following that specific path, but this is sort of a space when we're expected to be mature, expected to be adults, but we're not quite adults yet. That doesn't happen until we pass our Saturn return. And so it is this moment of tension where we're sort of like trying to play the game of almost like keeping up with the Joneses and we're looking at our peers and we're trying to kind of get to this level of maturity, but we're all still figuring it out. Then we have our Saturn return, which happens around 28 to 30. And again, this is a very hip buzzword. As of lately, as an astrologer, I'm seeing it a lot, especially because Saturn's moving into Aries. We're finishing up this cycle in Pisces. So the shift means a new batch of people are going to be entering this level of maturity, which is our Saturn and Aries folks. Comment down below if you have Saturn in Aries. Hi, you ready? We're going to be talking about that in my masterclass, so definitely sign up. But there's this Saturn return, this maturity, this moment, right? It is this sort of gateway for us to choose what we really want to do. Because the thing about Saturn, again, is he's here to teach us authority within ourselves. And so this sort of blueprint that was projected onto us as kids, which takes the form of Saturn within our natal chart, we learn how to master that. And so this is the test of mastery of, did you understand the lessons? Now, we might not. We might get hit hard with real honest truth of, again, it depends on where your Saturn's at, but it really is going to be honing in on the true essence of your Saturn placement. And it's asking, are you holding that level of authority for yourself, or are you giving your power away? And Saturn wants you to have your power, but he's going to give you opportunity to express that power, to express that maturity and that level of autonomy and structure and discipline and hard work to get it. Most people, the Saturn return can take many different forms. Now, it's very unique to the individual, but from what I've gathered through clients, through witnessing people, is it tends to be a sort of disruption of, are you living in alignment with your truth? And if it's not, things are going to crumble. It's kind of like the Tower card in tarot, which is sort of this foundation falling apart. But when you're in it, you don't realize it's giving you the opportunity to build anew. But in it, it can be painful, especially if you're clinging really tightly. Now, I know a lot of us are like, I want to prepare for this. How do I prepare for this? You don't. You just have to know that lessons are coming and just be ready. By be ready, I mean just surrender, which is very against the sort of idea of Saturn. It's a double-edged sword, truthfully. And I know a lot of you probably are gathering here wanting like sage advice. And my sage advice for you with the Saturn return is to just know that you will make it through. And that when you make it through the other side of it, you are going to be changed and you are going to be so much closer to your true authentic self. And it's going to be so rewarding. This work is rewarding work. And that's what Saturn really wants to show you is when you put hard work and dedication into building yourself, building for yourself to really be your own inner authority figure, it reaps rewards. Saturn is very karmic. When you put energy in, you get energy out. If you don't put anything in, you're not going to get anything out. And so as we go through different transits and Saturn will move across different planets within your natal chart throughout those 30 years, you'll have moments where you're dancing with authority in different realms. Again, we'll touch on this in my masterclass, but Saturn just wants you to shine ultimately. And he does it in the way that any father would, which would be to throw you out to the wolves and know that like the lessons are like, you already have the power within you. It's this illusion that it's been outside of you this whole time. And that's really what Saturn is showing you is like, you're going to have to get up, put in the hard work and have what you desire. And the image that just came to my mind is that of like a father telling you to go chop wood, otherwise you're going to be cold. But would you rather be cold and miserable inside, or then move your body, get warm, put in the effort to chop that wood so you can build a fire, and that fire can grow into something else. It also hones in on your body. It makes you toned. It makes you strong. It makes you capable. Like there's so much more benefit to working with Saturn than resisting Saturn, because no matter what in this tug of war, Saturn's going to win. You will come out humbled no matter what, but you could be humbled willingly. Or you can run kicking and screaming. And I just saw like, a father, little spanking. You know, it's like you can't resist this sort of experience that comes through. So move forward with grace and know that it's going to bring you exactly what you need. And its foundation and structure and routine and discipline and all those great words. And I love Saturn. I truly do, because we need it. If we want to create in this world, we need a container. We need a foundation to create on. And that's what Saturn is here to provide us, is to provide us with that structure and container for us to truly be who we want to be. Okay? Thank you guys so much for listening. Let me know if you want more content like this. And as always, liking, subscribing, commenting, supporting my work, that is the best way that you can support me in this journey as I grow and evolve on this account. Look out for more educational content, because I'm just really ready to like share my thoughts on these things and start teaching as we go. So this is a little test run. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. And if you haven't yet joined my Discord server, come join. It's a community of amazing people. We have over 230 people now, I believe, which is awesome. All right. I look forward to seeing you guys at my masterclass. All right. Love you guys.